But the first starting point for Nigerians is to understand that we have this thing we call SPICER, HE. SPICER meaning that our focus will be to stop the bloodletting in the country to security, addressing a comprehensive security, national security system or issue, and then followed by, power. There's no way we're moving economically anywhere without resolving the power issue, so that we'll be able to unleash the creative power of Nigerian person. And all they need is just have electricity, and you see a lot of things happening. And we have infrastructure, and that is to turn the Nigerian nation earth to a construction site where we are building power lines, bridges, roads. We are building sewage systems that would just help to take the infrastructural situation of the country from what it is now in doldrums to something that at least is equitable with what is obtainable in African countries that are doing well, i.e. South Africa, Ghana. Because when we talk about infrastructure and you talk about the US, people just think like, oh, you're talking about El Dorado and it's not going to happen around here. And the C in this acronym is corruption. I don't need to convince anybody that I can fight corruption. I've been doing that for a long time since I was in college, and most importantly in the last 12 years on Sahara Reporters. I laugh when I see PDP have a corruption list and APC have a corruption list. They probably copied it from our website. So I have a dossier of all these people, and we know what to do to make them stop being corrupt. But also very importantly is to be proactive about corruption. It's actually very difficult to fight corruption after the deed has been done. But technology can solve a lot of problems that in such a way that you can prevent people from stealing before they get to steal. Because the moment they steal, then they can hire the senior advocates of Nigeria, lawyers, bribe judges, and make it impossible for you to even retrieve, even though you might get to punish them a bit or embarrass them. So there has to be we have a comprehensive policy, using technology to prevent corruption before they happen. Of course, next one is economy. We know that it's very important to make sure that the Nigerian economy is functioning, except that we are not going to do the Nigerian economy according to the Washington Consensus alone, which says that you must punish poor people so that you can make people rich. That's what informed the situation that made Jonathan to feel that an economy is working if you have people riding around in private jets, as opposed to an economy that supports, small businesses, be able to support people to be able to send their kids to school, afford medicine, water, and those basic things of life. And how do we intend to ginger the economy? Is to make the minimum wage to be at par with living wage for a start. One of it is to increase minimum wage, from what it is now, the miserable 18,000 naira, which is unconscionable really, to 100,000 as a start. The last thing that is very important, which starts with the agitation of Nigerian people, is restructuring. People want to see the evolution of power. But here is where I have problem, and I'm not afraid to say it. I do not believe that the people who are proposing restructuring now are honest. And that's why the first restructuring that has to happen in Nigeria is an economic restructuring of the country, where people actually enjoy the resources of their country. And then we can then come and discuss, how much power needs to go to the states. Right now, the states have powers that they are abusing. The governments are just interested, or governors, for example, they are able to collect 300 million naira for security votes, but they don't pay workers. And you have to think about it comprehensively, that if you are saying as a state that you want more powers, what powers do you need? And how can you leverage that power, the responsibilities that will come with it? For example, I'm totally in support of state police, but you have to worry that people are not paying teachers, may also not pay police. And there's nothing more dangerous than an armed uniformed man who is not paid, who doesn't have money in his pocket. They will just turn to an armed robber, as we are saying with the police today. So these things have to be addressed comprehensively first. And then we can have a discussion around changing the constitution to accommodate all these things. We have to keep talking to ourselves. For example, I have a proposal that can also go into that mix. I want to abolish the Senate. This burdensome, total waste of space Senate is the coven of thieves, of former governors. That's where they retire. Armed robbers killed 50 people in Offa. Nobody showed up. Do you know why? Because the corrupt Megiddo there, the money that was released years ago for them to buy APC, they shared it, and they are the one they are using to defend the Senate president in his CCT trial. All of these are connected, you understand? So you have to just overhaul the security architecture of this country, make sure that nobody is taking sides with criminals, and as soon as you have a president who doesn't take sides with criminals, you can never have a police IG that is taking sides with criminals, or an army GOC that is taking sides with criminals, or the chief of army staff that is himself corrupt. As long as you have these elements within the system, there's no way the Boko Haram war could have ended. BBC reported that they almost caught Shekau. This is not, it's not Sahara reporters, but they were asked to stand down 5 kilometers from him because they don't want to kill him. As soon as they kill him, the war will be over. There won't be, freebies anymore for the generals. And I'm not afraid to say it. Until we reform the security architecture, until we don't have a biased national security network, we cannot solve the problem of crime. We can't solve the problem. We can't solve any problem. People that are going to be working when I turn Nigeria into a construction site are young people. We have an education policy that we are putting in place, and we are looking at the universities, and we want to invest $50,000 on every young person. I have made the public pronouncement that if you are doing NYC, there are 300,000. There are about 300,000 NYC people. If you are doing NYC, we'll pay you 50,000 naira. And if anything happens to you during the year of service, you get 10 million naira. They are young people, like we're talking about youth. And people ask me, how are you going to pay NYC 50,000 and not have inflation in society? Let me give you an example. I come from Niger Delta region. There are 30,000 militants, so-called, that are under amnesty. They are receiving 135,000 naira per month from the federal government. They don't do anything. They just wake up. Some of them go and smoke, drink. They come back at the end of the month for doing nothing, just being militants, carrying guns against the federal government of Nigeria, insurrection. They are getting paid. So how is it then impossible to pay a guy who is ready to risk his life to go and be a teacher and mold the future of kids as NYC? How is it impossible to pay them 50,000 naira? Every time politicians in this country want to rig election, they use you. When they want to go and carry out assassination, they use you. When they want to go and carry out ballot boxes, they use you. I've asked and urged the youth to just withdraw their services and act in what I call self-enlightened interest. These adults have been fooling us. How they sold us down the river. And the reason is say, what about us? What about the love they promised us? What about the care they promised us? Where is all of that? And the moment you cannot find a semblance of what they promised, you just withdraw your.
Nigeria, they use computer. The leaders of Nigeria, they use radio where they turn the knob.